Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are.
Welcome. It's time for the Books That Make You show. I'm your host, Desiree Duffy, and we're talking about books that make you discover your cranky superpowers. We all get cranky. We all grind on each other's nerves, have moments where we snap, lash out, and we can really be a pain in the butt to the ones that we love who are around us and those that have to put up with us. But what if I told you that you could harness that crankiness and use it as a superpower? Stephen Joseph is back with his latest book, Cranky Superpowers, Life Lessons Learned from the Common CrankaTsuris Chronicles. Stephen dives into the quirky, unexpected, and absolutely normal aspects of life that get under our skin. With a wit as quick as his marathon pace, Stephen serves up life wisdom that's hilarious and also profound. Hello, Stephen. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be back.
I'm excited to talk to you because you are flipping the switch, as they say. You're taking something that seems like a negative, turning it into not even just a positive, but a superpower. So tell us, what are cranky superpowers? You say that this is a trigger. How does this work? How does this remind us to utilize skillful means?
Well, in my book, Cranky, there's a bunch of characters that things aren't going all that well for them, including all the characters from The Wizard of Oz. Well, there's the three little pigs, Inky, Pinky, and Stinky. Inky and Pinky didn't do too well, but Stinky harnessed a superpower and even had their town named after Stinky, called Stinky Town. You have Cinderella, who discovered her voice, and that was her superpower. You have Mr. Spock in Star Trek. He interviews with Captain Kirk and gets the job as first officer by explaining what his superpower is. And and there's lots of other stories. There's Mr. Schlemiel. There's Harry Bergreer, who is called Harry Big Rear. And it's not very nice to call somebody a hairy big rear, even if they, so there's a lot of different stories and different things in different situations that confront us, every single day. And everyone is very different. So one chapter and another chapter completely different. So you can't make this stuff up, CrankaTsuris, and how to get your superpowers is like by making stuff up. Axe to grind, CrankaTsuris is completely this guy who grinds his axe and gets problems that way. So every chapter is a little different, but again, it all leads to getting that superpower and turning things around. The book is described as a self-help book, and I never like that terminology, self-help book. It sounds like self-serve ice cream. It's like you didn't make the ice cream. It's like, oh, wow, you served yourself ice cream. Is there a book on that? You just take the cup and there's the ice cream. I call it a help yourself book, which is more active. It's more like that. That's how you get your superpowers, by you actually being active, taking on something to change, to move the needle, so to speak. And it all comes from that cranky moment that unleashes the superpower. So so that's what it is. I could keep going on and on. That's a question. I'll never stop talking. So,
all right. Well, and that's one of the things that we love about you, Stephen, is you have this creative energy, and you go. Talking to you almost reminds me of way back. Once upon a time, I worked at this place called the Museum of Television and Radio, and Mel Brooks. If you remember Mel Brooks, he was just like this ball of creative energy going everywhere. Robin Williams. Same way. It's like, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to bounce into these characters. I'm going to take you on this journey. But when it boils down to it, you have stories in this book that help folks recognize their crankiness. So can you talk about how do you think we can break a repetitive cranky cycle if we have one?
If we compare, it depends on what particular cranky issue it is. So, I mean, I have my own personal story. Way back, it was 1987, December 87. I hit like 240 pounds, which is a lot more than I weigh now. And my girlfriend dumped me Christmas Eve. New Year's Eve, my brand new car gets stolen. And then I got fired from my job. So I lose my girl, my car, my job within like 8 days. And I was cranky. And then I proceeded to lose 85 pounds in 5.5 months, not planning on it. And that, to me, that was always the book I wanted to write. I called it The Pickled Herring Diet and Other Conversations on Getting to Normal. And that is like, if I have to like say what, like a big thing that like, that really like a pet peeve of mine when I read books like on habits, getting good habits and not getting rid of bad habits. I always kind of like, it's a mental frame of mind, like a frame of mind where you're thinking. I don't think about like habits, because habits is like getting a parking spot. Like, and I live in Hoboken, but I grew up in New York City, lived in New York City most of my life, where they have alternate side parking. So, you know, you move your car here, but you have to move your car a few days later. It's not permanent, it's temporary. And I think of normals as building a house. It's really that attitude. I'm building a house. It's a permanent feeling to it. And that's what really, like, I kind of talk about in my book, where these people get new normals, that they're building their house, not just like, oh, I have a New Year's resolution and I'm going to do this. Maybe I'll do it for a week and then goes off to the wayside. It really is a mindset that you're changing a normal, and that to me is the big thing. When people are trying to really pick up, and usually sometimes it comes from the crankiness. It really comes from, well, forget this, and it really kind of, it's almost like you picture Hulk. Like the Incredible Hulk, where he just gets so cranky and his shirt starts ripping off, and he's transformed. So all these characters, the stories, it's a transformation. It's not just like, oh, maybe I'll do a good habit this week. It's not about that. It's really about transformation.
Exactly. And again, it's just like the superhero transforming from the mild-mannered somebody or other to this empowered superhero. You put the word common, as in the Common CrankaTsuris, that helps us embrace our crankiness. Can you talk about the word common and why you juxtapose it that way?
Yeah. So there's a couple of reasons. There's two parts to that. There's common and there's CrankaTsuris, and both have important parts to that. So the thing about people getting cranky, it's something like they want to get rid of. They beat themselves up. Oh, I shouldn't be cranky. This is terrible. I'm cranky. And and how do I get rid of it? And actually, I started writing about crankiness when I wrote my first book, The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tyrantic CrankaTsuris, when one critic said I didn't talk enough about getting rid of the crankiness. And I'm talking about embracing your crankiness, embracing it, and finding the power to transform. So the thing with the common, I have to say, look, you have the common cold where you have like 2 or 3 a year, and it's called the common cold. CrankaTsuris, I call it the CrankaTsuris, because you could have 2 or 3 in the morning alone. And once you make it like a common thing, it's not like just you. It's not about you. It's about us, all of us. We get cranky. Then it doesn't feel like, okay, I don't have to beat myself up. I should have put a happy face on my and then go and ignore it and suppress it and make believe it doesn't exist. And that doesn't get rid of the crankiness. And then it's kind of residue and builds up. And then you can have a CrankaTsuris explosion, which is using that superpower for evil as opposed to good. So that's the common piece. The CrankaTsuris piece is just giving it a name, where it's common having a fun name. I took Tsuris is the Yiddish word for problems. You think you have Tsuris. It's funny. All these old ladies, if I had done Tsuris, I would be doing cartwheels. No one could outdo my Tsuris. And of course, all these people who could never ever do a cartwheel, you can't, like the person who's saying that is already 80 years old or in the wheelchair, and they're going to say they're going to be doing a cartwheel. But anyway, that's a side point. That's where I got the CrankaTsuris as a fun name, and even in my book, I talk about I have one chapter called Genius Brain CrankaTsuris, where somebody is, he has a brain tumor. It's terrible, but the doctor says you have genius brain. The good news is that the genius in your brain is inoperable. So we just have to keep an eye on it. But the genius becomes operable. Then we might have to take it out. So having more fun with, and I say like don't understand. Well, let's say you go in to see a doctor saying, I'm feeling depressed. And the doctor says, you have a case of depression. How does that make a person feel better? A person's already depressed being told that they're depressed. So genius brain is kind of like, I have genius brain. That's pretty good. I never knew. So again, turning it upside down and having fun with it and saying, yeah, it's okay.
And you definitely do have that wit and the humor and the energy in all of these stories. You mentioned Cinderella and how finding one's own voice is a cranky superpower. Can you tell us more about the Cinderella chapter?
Cinderella, that was one of my favorite chapters. There's chapters in this book that I think about, how did that ever happen? Like what drugs did I take? So Cinderella, it combines a lot of different stories. It has little pieces of Batman because it's in Gotham City, or Gothingham. I call it Gothingham. And you have Bruce and Fanny Wayne, and then they have a daughter, Ella, who's Cinderella. And then you have a Wicked Witch, and then they have a Ruby Red Slippers factory. So there's kind of like a Wizard of Oz thing going. And then the prince was transformed to a frog, and then the frog seeing a fly on Snow White, wants to eat the fly, but instead of kisses Snow White, turns back into a prince. They start dating, but they break up because Snow White, she was living with 7 little men, which the prince was having a problem with. And then, meanwhile, Cinderella went to her Aunt Maisie, and she tried to open up the Marvelous Mrs. Maisie's Shoe Emporium, which it wasn't so marvelous. And her last name was Rapunzel, and the Rapunzel sisters, those were the stepsisters, Stacey, and Tracy, who are a little bit crazy. And you even have like a talking snake that helps Cinderella drain the snakes. And so there's a lot of different things going on. But Cinderella had this online, like a chat room on her computer with the prince, and they started getting along quite nicely. So the thing is, she was planning to go to the ball, and she said, I ordered this fairy godmother online, just like it. And I guess she saved money and she ordered the fairy godmother, but the fairy godmother didn't come with the carriage or the gown or just a megaphone with batteries, fresh batteries too. It's fresh batteries. And Cinderella ends up using her voice, and it's her being heard that gets her together with the prince, and they live happily ever after.
A happily ever after ending.
Yes.
Love it. One of my favorite chapters, I gotta tell you, is chapter 8. You have the hoping for the best CrankaTsuris. Maybe it's because I'm an optimist. Can you talk about how we often forget to necessarily prepare for the best? Right?
Yeah. That was also one of my favorite chapters. So thank you. You get a gold star for that one. But that story, first of all, I'm a lawyer in my day job, and I hear all the time lawyers, and I manage lawyers. Well, we hope that this judge will. We hope that whatever. We hope that this motion. We hope. And like so. It starts out with little Timmy, who always failed on his exams, and the parents asked him why he failed so much, and he said, well, I hope for the best, but I only prepared for the worst. So what happens in that story, for you viewers out there, is that I retell the story of the Jewish people living in bondage and slavery, leaving Egypt to go to the land of milk and honey. And Aaron comes home one day to Miriam. Miriam, look, I have this piece of paper in my hand. It's a brochure. And it's like, oh, it's a brochure. What's the big deal? Not any brochure. It says, tired of Egypt in the winter, the land of milk and honey in the spring. But it says, like in the small print, be forewarned, while we hope for the best, we will only be preparing for the worst. And so, Miriam, what does this mean? Oh, it means, you don't have to worry about anything. Everything will be taken care of. And then, everything goes wrong. And like, so they get to the Red Sea, and it's like, Moses, where's the cruise ship? Where, like, I want this milk and honey thing. I went for the cruise. And I heard your great grand Uncle Noah had a big cruise ship, and he even had a zoo on it. Could you imagine that? And Moses said, well, we hope for the best. We only prepared for the worst. And then it keeps going on. So, like, is there a map? No map. They go to the mountain, and there's this calf, and they got COVID 10,000 BC, and is there a vaccine? No vaccine. Thankfully, one of their only foods was borscht, and they were going around in a circle in the desert for 40 years. So somebody had a great idea. If we dripped the borscht, a little red line in the sand, we would know where we came from, and we wouldn't be going around in circles anymore. And that line in the sand later became known as the Borscht Belt. So anyway, and they got to the land of milk and honey, and then they got along together with the other cranky people who actually lived there. And again, it was about preparing for the best, having that sort of attitude that again, it was the crankiness.
Yeah.
That really turned it around. We have to do something. We can't just keep going around in circles. It's just like, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
So And just a serious thing about that, and in the book, I do a special recognition. My ex-wife had passed away with ALS, and this was last year, I actually gave the eulogy at her funeral, and it was during Passover. So that's where, and I was actually talking about how she was, and she grew up with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, but she was a dancer, she was an actor, she did a lot. She was also a therapist, but all sorts of different things, despite her disabilities. And I talked about the thing about her, and this is really the same principle, where people talk about being free from slavery. This is a holiday, freedom from slavery, and it's more important about freedom to as opposed to freedom from, because you're free from slavery. You're in the desert for 40 years, wandering in the desert. That's not the freedom, but that's the Cranky Superpowers is about the freedom to, where you're going to a place, and that's where you find your freedom.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Cooking and food play heavily into you, Stephen, and everything you talk about. I tend to get hungry when I have conversations with you, and then you tempt me because you'll text me pictures of your food. So there's that. Why is cooking the ultimate superpower?
Well, I mean, I wish I could just like transform everybody. I've had people over. I actually I had this employee that I was supervising as an attorney, and I had him over for dinner. But I had him over for to the cooking in front of him, and that was part of my training as an attorney. Because I wanted to evaluate him as well, and see his curiosity. It's just like, oh wow, how do you do that? He asked no questions. He wasn't curious about it at all. He just wanted to eat the food. What are we going to eat? Didn't care about the cooking lesson. So I can't say that. Oh, like anybody could just pick up, like start cooking. I personally, I grew up in a house with a mother who cooked amazing food. So I got used to amazing good food. So if you're used to it, you start saying, well, I'm going to better learn how to cook it. But what I write in, I have CrankaTsuris cooking class, and I talk about there's no such thing as like just the book, The Joy of Cooking, but there's no such book as The Misery of Cooking. Or those TV shows where you have all these cooking classes. It's just like, oh, I hate cooking, and it's a cooking disaster show. There's no shows about that. It's like, look what I created, how beautiful it is. It tastes really good, and some things are just so simple to make that it's not a bad idea to have that place. I was had some emails and just like things like got triggered, and it was like right around noon today, and I was just going to have my lunch, but I had some chicken thighs uncooked. I just started cooking chicken thighs. I didn't eat them. I just put them away, but I just felt like I'm creating something, and I just felt better. I eat my food. I felt better too. But the cooking, creating, like it came out perfect. Wow, that's really good. So yes, I'm a big proponent of cooking as a way to take care of crankiness, and it's a superpower because people appreciate it.
Sometimes we have to remind ourselves that our crankiness comes from a vantage point that we can't necessarily see ourselves. Can you unpack that for us, that idea?
Yeah, no, just in my first book, I wrote more about that, where I talked about like diagnosing. There's like just a chapter, Crankosaurus doctor, Crankosaurus lawyer. Uh, that in this book, like I have some chapters, constructive criticism, Crankatsaurus, with yeah, don't want your opinion, Crankosaurus. There's a couple chapters on that where I don't want to be listening. I don't want to hear it, and like so constructive criticism. It's funny. That again is what happens with these chapters. Somebody has like a comment that triggers a story or triggers this chapter. So somebody wrote me an email about something I did wrong, and it started out with all due respect. And I thought that was a funny phrase because when anybody says with all due respect, it's not really it's not really respectful. It's just like they're just like they're kind of pounding on you. Yeah, so there's nothing about respect, and then constructive criticism. My wife actually would say, "Can I give you some constructive feedback?" Actually, that's what the word constructive feedback, and again, how to listen to that. That sometimes somebody would kind of cover up. I want to be really critical of you and put you down and make you feel small, but I'm dressing it up in with all due respect. And let me give you a little constructive criticism. So it's dressed up, like I'm trying to be a nice guy and doing all that, and really it's not. So, and there's a way of talking to a person to help somebody out. That you're not, first of all, like I talk in that chapter, you're not giving like 30 things. Oh, like now I'm on a roll. I'm going on page 89 of constructive criticism. Did you get all the other criticisms so far? It can't be that. It can't be, how do I get this person to hear, reflect back, that's interesting. I understand that one. Oh, I get that. That sort of thing. It's slowing it down, almost like you're giving guidance where, somebody, a little kid in Little League. Well, when you're swinging the bat this way, you're doing like this, and you're popping it up. You just go like that and slow it down. And again, that's constructive. That might be criticism, but it's done in this gentle, loving way, helpful way, not beating up, not demeaning a person. And so that's that chapter. I kind of point that out again in a funny way.
Right. We don't walk up to somebody and say, with all due respect, I love you. Like, we don't do that.
Yes.
No, the minute all due respect means, or constructive criticism, feedback, you're nailing it with showing those idiosyncrasies, but then we're bringing it around full circle, because it's that ability to really listen to each other, embracing each other, and that ultimately leads to healing, the healing of our planet, creativity, yes, and bringing all of that together, right?
That's right, yes.
Okay. Stephen, we're running up against the clock. Tell us where people can go to find out more about you, find all of your amazing books. You have children's books, too. You have the whole Snoodles series. Can you give us your website and your details?
You could find me on StephenJosephAuthor.com. I have an award-winning blog where I talk about crankiness. And I'm on Instagram. I'm on Stephen Joseph Author Instagram, where I run 10 miles every morning along the Hudson, and I take pictures and post my running pictures, the sunrise over the Hudson, or flowers. There's a lot of flowers. June is a great month for that. But I post my pictures on Instagram, on Facebook, Stephen Joseph Author on Facebook. And you can find my books on Amazon. And this book is coming out on September 26th, Amazon, and of course, anywhere else, any other place that you go online, Barnes & Nobles or whatever bookstore is your favorite bookstore, you'll find it.
And you are going to be keynoting at the next Book Fest, which is October 21st and 22nd.
That's very exciting. I'm looking forward to that, yes.
Stephen Joseph, author of many books, including the latest, Cranky Superpowers, his Snoodles children's book series, and so much more. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us as well on the Books That Make You show. You can find out more about us on the website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. You can also follow on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Make sure you ring the bell and subscribe and leave comments and engage with us. It really does help the channel grow and grow. We also present the Book Fest every spring and fall. Join us for that. Go to thebookfest.com and you can sign up, become a Bookfester, and never miss a thing with emails delivered directly to your inbox. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The host and executive producer of the Books That Make You show is Desiree Duffy. Sound mastering and engineering by Dave Napox. Social media and content promotion by Siddhi Jahagirdar. Copywriting and editing by Mike Robinson. The Books That Make You show is an award-winning podcast produced by Black Chateau Enterprises.